Welcome back to Balance and Bubbles with Shannon and Amy. Today, we're going to be talking about health, mindset, and everything in between with a little honesty and hopefully a lot of sparkle.
Uh,
And today kicks off our first official episode, which is coming back to your center. And this really feels honestly kind of perfect for where I am right now because I don't know about you, but when things feel off, I start to think that everything's off.
Mm.
I don't know where to start. My brain wants to fix everything at once routines, sleep, food, mindset. And then I just don't fix any of it. So I actually love that's where we're starting with the body because it feels the most real, the most tangible, and just the perfect place to begin.
Yeah, absolutely, Amy. And welcome everybody. This really is the place that most of us ignore the longest is the body. We just keep pushing. And that's kind of a hard thing to admit, right? We didn't start with awareness. We usually start after something has already gone off the tracks, gone sideways, and our body really starts screaming to us. And for me, this really is what the episode is about. What if your body has been talking to you for years? And you just got really good at overriding it, ignoring the signals. And it's not because you don't care. We all care, but it's because we're capable. We're capable of pushing through. We're capable of handling more and we're capable of being really adaptive, and eventually the thing that made you very successful starts to work against you.
Absolutely. And that totally hits because I think a lot of women are the ones that I'm the strong, we're the one that everybody counts on. And sometimes when your body starts whispering, like, I'm tired, I'm just not quite myself. And it's real easy to go, I don't have time for that. And then suddenly it's not a whisper anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's where we're going today, listening to your body before it forces you to. Not in a dramatic, fear-based way. We're not making this drama, but in a really grounded, honest way. Because the truth is, reset doesn't start with a perfect plan. It starts with being aware.
And before we go too deep, my favorite part, because I can feel us, we're getting there. We should bring in the bubbles, the part of balance and bubbles.
Yes. So we cannot skip the bubbles.
So this week's mocktail is actually going to fit the conversation really well. Are these not beautiful?
They're
I
gorgeous.
know, super simple. We call it the body whisperer, and it is definitely whispering something to me right now for sure. But we just want to let you know the ingredients are cucumber, lime seltzer water, and some mint. And because I love fun, we have to add the glitter. I don't know if y'all can see it, but you can. That is awesome. Yes. So this is our drink for today, our mocktail for today. And I love it because it's not just something pretty to drink, but it also supports your body.
Yes,
Mhm, mhm.
absolutely. It really does. So it's kind of symbolic of what we're talking about today. Instead of pouring something that numbs your stress, you're choosing something that supports your recovery. And hydration sounds basic, but you're going to hear a lot from us about hydration and making sure that we get that good hydration in us. It's one of the most overlooked signals of respect that we can give our body.
And it feels a little elevated, which I appreciate. It's
Yes.
kind of like we're at the
Got to be
spa,
very,
like we're at yeah,
I love it.
but we're really just sitting right here,
Yes.
getting hydrated.
Always, no matter how over driven we are in the moment, we do not have to give up that elegance.
All right. So let's start here because I think this is where people will immediately recognize themselves. What does it actually look like when your body is whispering? Because I think a lot of women don't even realize that that's happening. For me, it's not some dramatic crash, although I'm not saying I haven't had a crash out, but it is more like I'm tired. I can still function. I don't sleep great, but I can still get up. I just feel a little off, but I can push through and it's all very manageable. Why does that sound like the last 48 hours of my life?
Serious.
Yeah.
I know. Yes, yes, and that's exactly why it gets missed, right? The body doesn't usually start with something loud. It starts with patterns that are easy for us to normalize, easy for us to kind of ignore. Things like your sleep not feeling restorative anymore. You go to sleep, you go to bed, and you wake up really tired, or
Mhm.
maybe you're waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. and your brain is on. You're thinking
Mm.
about something immediately, Or you might just hit that afternoon window where your energy just crashes, just drops, and you reach for the caffeine or the sugar because you still got stuff to do. You have to keep going. And then there's that wired but tired feeling. I think we can all relate to that where the body is just exhausted, but the nervous system won't settle down.
That's the one I felt for
Yeah.
sure, where, like, I'm so tired, but I cannot relax. It's actually the worst combination for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And then we layer on things like the cravings, right? The body's needing something, it's needing to have some energy or something. So it'll will especially get those cravings for salt or for sugar, mood shifts. We become irritable, we get brain fog, our workouts don't feel the same, or just taking longer to recover from things that used to be easy. Amy, the other day I had a whole day of grandkid
Mhm.
tournaments,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Softball and then basketball. And I was exhausted.
Sure.
It was like 12 hours of being out running around, doing this stuff. And the next day, I literally slept 8 hours, which is unusual. And then I took an hour and a half nap later in the afternoon and I still woke up exhausted, right? The body is just like, I need some recovery and rest, and so none of those things really feel like a crisis on their own, right? We get irritable, we get brain fog, we get this, we get that. But together they begin to show us a pattern.
And that's where women start to blame themselves. Like,
Mhm.
I need more discipline or I've gotten lazy, which I just honestly don't know a lazy female.
Right.
So, but at any rate, it's just what happens at this age. I've definitely had those thoughts. So
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, taught, and it's not so much. I don't know if it comes from culture, comes from gender culture. I'm not sure where that comes from. But because we're not performing, we think something's not working, so we're just gonna push harder, right? We're just gonna lock down more. We're just gonna, but actually it's not a lack of discipline. I don't think many of us not that we can't have moments of lack of discipline, but
right,
I
right.
don't think it's because we're lazy and undisciplined. It is physiology in what our body needs and how we respect it, how we respond to it. So this is your nervous system being overworked, right? We run in this fight flight and our body being under recovered. We don't allow it to have that time for recovery. And we're not saying that's easy, ladies. We're not saying that we have the perfect answer, but again, we go back to that awareness and we go back to then what starts to happen to women in midlife with change of hormones, starting to lose our muscle mass if we're not intentional on keeping it, stress stacking up in a way that we get to a certain point that the nervous system just cannot keep buffering anymore.
So I think my question for you, Shannon, is how do you know the difference between it's just a busy life or this is normal and then being called like dysregulated? Like, how do you kind of know the difference between that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. So busy still allows for recovery. It can still allow for recovery. Dysregulation does not. If you're sleeping but not feeling rested, if your energy is inconsistent, you have your highs and your lows, kind of that wired but tired thing again. If small things feel harder than they used to, and you might be noticing your body composition changing, right? You might be noticing that even though you're doing all the things you've always done, are you doing all the right things? Those are signs that your system isn't bouncing back the way it should. It needs to have more recovery, and we need to be more intentional about thinking about how we do it. And that's where that whisper starts coming in.
Very interesting. It just makes me think how many people are actually living in that space right now and calling it normal because I know for like
Mhm.
myself, I can truly say in the past 3 months, there has been probably 3 to 5 days of each month that I can now that we're actually addressing it between the 2 of
Mhm.
us, I was it was dysregulated. It was
Yeah.
definitely a step outside of the normal daily busy so, yeah, that's
Yes.
so interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think if we can step back a little bit into our younger years, so I know both Amy and I were single moms. We both had careers. Amy was in education, I was in law enforcement. And when I think about what I used to do, and think, "Oh my word,
Wow.
how did I do it, right? How did I survive and keep doing it?" I know my body whispered then, but the innate resiliency of being younger just allowed me to override it, right? I just did what had to be done, and it didn't wipe me out like it does
It
like it
does
does now,
now.
right? Like 12-hour days at a
Yeah,
tournament.
yeah.
Yeah, so, it's a lot, and so what we really wanna bring that back to is that this is why awareness matters. This is why we have to start listening because we can't start responding if we're not hearing what our body's saying.
You're just making me giggle because, like, just spending an afternoon with my grandkids, it's literally I come home and it could be a 3-hour nap.
Yes.
And, like, it's crazy. But so my next question to you is to go a little bit deeper, because someone on the podcast is hopefully listening going, "That could be me." 'Cause I am I just busy, normal life, or am I a little dysregulated? And why do you think like, why is this happening?
Yeah. So at a high level, okay, so we're seeing a combination of hormonal, right? We know all this
Mhm.
stuff, right? We're
Mhm.
in that age where we see hormonal shifts, we see chronic stress. And I mean, I want to visit chronic stress for just a minute because I don't sometimes I think people don't really recognize what chronic stress is. We all know what acute stress is. We can identify that, right? Something big happens,
Mhm.
really rocks our nervous
Mhm.
system, and that but chronic stress is that continual, I'm going to say drip, drip, drip. Bills need to be paid. Timelines need to be met. Maybe we're taking care of grandchildren. Maybe we're taking care of our parents. It's that constant thing. And then that doesn't even talk about relationships and life and who's going to get the groceries and what are we going to make for dinner. And that just builds and builds and builds. And I don't think because they're not singularly big, we tend to minimize them, right? So we have, excuse me, and a lifestyle pattern that's changing, right? That is our lives are changing. We're no longer in, well, you still work. So, but we're no longer in this lifestyle that we have this structure and thing.
Mhm.
It starts changing and then we have to figure, certain things out. One of these days I'll tell you what it was like when I actually retired and
Ugh.
had no structure in my life for a while. So we have these things that are going on and we have a different way that we need to be looking at our physiology too, right? Because we have hormonal shifts that are happening. We have estrogen declining and that affects us in so many ways. And we're not medical advisors or anything like that, but there is awareness that needs to be there on insulin is sensitivity can be different, right? The loss of muscle mass, those things that we didn't have to worry about in our 20s and 30s, our 40s. But as we get into our 50s and 60s, that really begins to get affected as well. And that in and of itself is a stressor on our body. So it's another layer of stress that comes in there. And then the nervous system just gets into a state that it stays elevated. We have to be intentional in helping it to go into that rest and digest, place. And when that happens, when we stay in that elevated state, then we are no longer looking at optimization and we are looking at surviving, right?
You're not trying to feel amazing, you're just trying to feel
To
like
survive.
to just be able to get up and do your daily routines. I kinda
Yeah.
wanna back around a little bit to the hormones just because I think a lot of times as women and again, we've talked we're not telling y'all anything what to do
No.
or how to do it, we're just having conversations. I think for me, I really did not understand the concept of some of those hormones and, I as I got older, I was like, "Oh, I'm working out, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." So I didn't really think that I had any issues with hormones. Well,
Mhm.
I did, obviously, the doctor gave me hormones, and it's interesting because I can tell a big difference.
Mhm.
And I know some people don't believe in that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But for me, I can say, the hormones for me have been I think what it did for me was I'm trying to explain it in a way that it's kind of like I don't have as many dips, either emotionally or sleep, like, just a lot of just it's almost like just like a it's just
Evens you out.
okay, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go, yeah.
Yeah.
Said from the resiliency
Just
expert.
just kinda
Yeah,
evens
evens you
you
out.
out. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's a really good point too that you said, Amy. What so this is all about you, right? This is all about what what works for me, what sounds like it's going to resonate for me, right? Some women choose to use HRT, some women choose not to use HRT, and that is perfect either way, right? It's really about us taking our own autonomy back and going, this is what my body needs. And even for you, that might change season to season.
You're so right.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes during a stressful time, some women take medicine for anxiety. And I remember one of my doctors said the best thing to me. He said, Amy, if you had a broken arm, well, what would you do? Well, we would put a cast on it and we would mend it back together. And he said to me, he said, sometimes the brain may be broken for a month or a couple months,
Hmm.
depending on your level of stress and things like that. And when he made me realize that the brain is also kind of like a muscle and that it doesn't just, you know, fix itself overnight, and this
Yes.
stress that keeps happening over and over, that you do at some point also have to address it and let your mind heal as well. So anybody out there that is taking medicine, I mean, we celebrate everybody here, guys. Like, just trust us. Whatever your choice, we celebrate it. No judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, all these things that we talk about is things don't just happen overnight, although sometimes we might wake up and go, what the heck happened? Because we have been overriding it for so long. But it's really as a result of those small patterns over time and us becoming aware of.
Yeah, and I think what's hitting me again is just that connection. Like,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily tie your sleep issues to stress. You don't necessarily tie your cravings to your energy. It all just feels kind of like separate problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so this is where I think some women can get stuck in trying to fix each piece individually. Hey, I'm not sleeping, so I'm going to take something to help me to sleep. But I'm also create right.
Right.
You know, so it's these little individual. We try to fix them in little individual pieces.
Yeah.
Or, and I think this is very common for women, we try to fix it with more intensity, right? So
Right. Right.
if this isn't working, if my body isn't releasing the fluff that it's put on, I'm just going to push it harder, right? I'm going to restrict my calories. I'm going to do more cardio, and I'm going to punish my body because it's not responding the way I want to. So,
And that can become a cycle too, which is
yes,
worse probably for your body.
yes,
Getting into those
absolutely.
cycles of doing those super restrictive or, yeah, that can definitely not be a good thing either.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And our bodies actually start to learn not to trust us. And I wasn't really going to go there here today, but our bodies when they get into the survival mode, all it is concerned with is that it's going to keep you alive. And it does not care if your waist is not 28 inches or, your skin doesn't look fluffy, perky and glow. It is like, no, I'm keeping this organism alive right now. And the more that we push it into that stress place, it takes us a while sometimes to turn it around and bring it to let it know it can trust us.
So I know this isn't necessarily something that we rehearsed or that's kind of been in, but will you just tell everybody a little bit about your resiliency background real quick? I'm super passionate about health, wellness, the physical body, and Shannon is, I love talking to her because she's helped me so much with a lot of the non-physical
Mhm.
things like resiliency, which is super important.
Yeah. So I'll just put in a little tiny capsule. So I spent 25 years in law enforcement, loved my career, and along the way because I always believe that things come to us like we're supposed to get them, I got into the brain and trauma, how trauma affects the brain, learned several different modalities and how we can work to reset and rewire. So I really transitioned from focusing more on trauma to focusing more on resilience, right? How do we build our resilience so that we can have that capacity when things happen and stuff? So it's way we'll talk about this as we go through the months and stuff, but I am fascinated with the brain and the body, just how much recovery the brain and the body actually has and having trauma experiences from working in law enforcement. Obviously, we're there. I had my own personal, very, very life and death trauma experience. And I will tell you that because of what I had already studied and already knew, I was able to recover from that without having residual post traumatic stress. And that was like a huge piece for me where I really came around to saying if people had knowledge and understanding,
Mhm.
they can definitely take charge of what happened to them.
Don't worry, everybody's listening. We'll get the story. I don't even know it, but we'll get it. But we're not there yet. So, anything that y'all do want to know, just make sure that you put in comments and things like that with us because we will address anything you want to know. But something so cool about Shannon, which I mean, I don't know about y'all, but being in law enforcement for as long as she has, she's probably dealt with so much trauma and seen so many individuals with. I bet that helped you in your career as a law enforcement, even if it was towards
Yeah.
the end or
Yeah.
training law enforcement people.
Yes,
Like, I'm sure that's
absolutely.
really helped you with a lot of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the turning point now, and we're gonna continue on with so when people kind of see this happening, what changes does someone actually see? Like, when will this awareness click for those of us that aren't aware?
Yeah. So I think the biggest shift is getting our mindset to move from control to partnership. How do we start partnering with our body and our mind and our heart and our spirit, right? Everything that we're going to touch on. How do we start partnering with that instead of forcing it, right? Instead of thinking, how do I force my body
Mhm.
to, lose this weight? Or how do I force my body to get out and do whatever needs to be done? We can do that to say or to ask, what does my body need right now? What do I need right now? Because it might be something completely different than what you're getting ready to force your body to do. And I know this sounds simple and it's not, right? We're trying to shift a way that we think and a way that we operate, but it changes everything and it helps us to stop overriding those signals, interpret those signals, and then respond to them appropriately.
I think that's where resistance comes in. I know, and I again, just speaking for myself, I think sometimes as a female, I want to control I I can control how I think. I can control how I'm so busy trying to control everything
Mm.
that I think sometimes that kind of brings to resistance with basically what you're saying that it no longer is a partnership with myself, but I'm trying to control it, which is probably the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, we have to be able to make things happen, right? But
mhm,
I think it's the mindset around it. And I think that this is where a lot of women hesitate, right? Because we have built our identities around the one who is capable, around the one who pushes
100%.
through, right? Around, and if you're in a career or even in your household, you're a leader and leaders lead. We don't we leaders can't stop.
That's right. They don't get
Leaders,
days off.
no, they don't get days off. They got to keep pushing through. So getting to the place of being able to choose stability, choose consistency, nourishment, rest, what does our body truly need? And flopping on the bed at night, with 100,000 things going on and your body's still in high drive is not rest. We have to learn how do we take our body into that place of recovering and resetting so that it can get the rest that it needs. But I think for some people that can feel kind of uncomfortable at first.
Well, it almost feels too simple. Like that can't be the answer, but
Yeah. Yeah. It does sound simple, but simple doesn't mean it's easy. It can be a simple formula, but it means it's effective. It's an effective way to do things. So this is where we're going to bring in the idea of stability before intensity,
okay, say it
right?
again.
This is where we're going to bring in the idea of stability
Okay.
before intensity.
Stability before intensity.
So instead of adding more,
Mm,
instead of piling it on, we need to stabilize where we are. So that's going to look like where's our sleep? What's our meals look like?
mhm.
What's our movement look like? How are we taking care of our body, hydrating it, and settling our nervous system? And that's where the change actually begins.
Okay, so first we're gonna have to basically evaluate where we're at with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm already looking at all those things going, I'm gonna get an F for that, and F for that.
And you're already putting pressure on yourself because
Exactly.
this isn't judgment, right?
Exactly, exactly. Judgment-free zone here, ladies.
Yes, we're not.
What is that saying? We listen and don't cheers. We listen and
Cheers.
don't judge. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just awareness. There is no grading here. So let's give the listener something really simple to work on this week. And we're going to have this in the on our web page as well. So you'll be able to download this and take a look at it. So this is not a full overhaul, right? This is just awareness. We are not thinking about fixing it and we are not judging ourselves. Okay. So take a moment at the end of each day and ask yourself, where did my body try to get my attention today?
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. Tell me more.
I just like I'm sitting here thinking a prime example is yesterday. And I'm a little embarrassed to tell you this, but I took my grandkids to Bubble Planet, which if no one's been, it's fantastic. But I took a 2.5-year-old who's potty training and 9-month-old
By
to be
yourself,
by myself.
crazy lady.
That probably was the first problem is I took it by myself. The point of that was I got back and I slept just the entire rest of the night. And I remember on the couch thinking, why am I so tired? Why am I so tired? And a lot of times you want to try to blame something for why you're
Mhm.
so tired. And I guess I don't know why I just can't allow my body to be tired. Like why do I have to find do you know what I mean? Like I had to find a reason or a cause or blame something instead of
Yes.
Amy, it's okay. Your body's just tired.
Yes.
Just rest.
So
Rest.
so let's break this down just for a second, right? So you took a 2.5-year-old and a 9-month-old to a public place, and I'm assuming as a place they get to jump and play and all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
So they're doing all those things. So not only are you physically trying to keep up with a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old, does the 9-month-old were you carrying him?
well, I did
Was
have
it
it I was
baby?
smart enough to take a stroller.
Okay.
Smart enough to take a stroller because then you can at least contain them or one
Right.
of them, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Put him somewhere. So physically you're running around,
Mhm.
right? Mentally, think of
Ooh,
where your brain is on high alert for the responsibility of these two little humans.
why is it harder when you're a grandparent?
Maybe we weren't that smart when we were younger. I don't know.
But
I mean,
it's like
but
there's 0 room for
yes.
mistakes.
Yeah, you don't want one hurt or in
I mean,
yes.
there's 0 room for
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, we have to understand it's not just us running around physically exerting energy and stuff. It's like what's going on mentally, what's going on emotionally. Those are all withdrawing from the bank. So combine them
Wow, that's
all.
sounds exhausting.
Yeah. So combine them all, right? And you come home and you're like, the nervous system is like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Right. No, no, nothing else. So yeah, we do get into that place of thinking that we should be doing more, being better and pushing harder. And it's not to say that we can't at times, but not, we have to be consistent in giving our body the rest and reset as well.
Well, I love
Yeah.
that. What does your body need today?
Yes. So, where did my body try to get the attention today? Right. So, where did that attention try to come in? So, it might have been your energy dip, right? It might have been your mood. All of a sudden, you find yourself, you're a little cranky, and your significant other comes in and back at them, because they breathe. So maybe it's cravings. You might be someone who starts craving, salty, crunchy things, or maybe sweets or something like that, or even checking in with your body, right? Are my shoulders up to my ears right now?
Yeah.
Or are they nice and relaxed? Is my back hurting? Am I holding tension in my legs? So checking into your body and again, important, important, important. Instead of judging it,
Mm.
I'm just noticing it. I'm just being aware of it.
And again, I think I've said this several times. I just love that it's not I mean, what you just said is not overwhelming, and you didn't give me a prescription. You didn't say, "You need to go for a 30-minute jog," or "You need to do a calorie deficit." You
Yeah.
literally were like, "Just kind of be aware of what your body needs today."
Yeah.
So I really like that it's fairly simplistic when you think about it, so I
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think that as we start to listen, we start to read those signals better.
100%.
You'll start to read those signals better. So you're not exactly confused or trying to justify them, you're just like, oh, this is what my body's saying. So awareness first, adjustment later.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this feels like such a strong place to start the series because it's not about doing everything different overnight. It's actually just about noticing kind of what's already happening.
Yes. And that's really the heart of this episode. Your body is not the problem. It's the messenger and it's trying to get your attention. It might have been trying to get your attention for a while. So when we start listening earlier, when the body's whispering, then we don't have to experience the scream. And none of us want to experience the scream.
All right. So, all the listeners and including myself, we're going to go into this week and we're going to ask ourselves, where is my body whispering? What have I been normalizing that maybe I shouldn't be? And what's just one small thing that I can respond to differently?
Yeah.
I can do that.
You
I
can
can
do
do it. I can do it.
yes,
Yeah.
we can all do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So next week we're going to move into the mind because awareness is step 1, but how you interpret what you're noticing matters just as much.
And if you want the recipe for next week's mocktail ahead of time, which you should because it's going to be really good. And I'm not sure it'll be prettier than this one because this is, by the way, this turquoise is my favorite color. What's your favorite color?
Actually it is. It's the I love the
Is it?
teal
Is it
turquoise. Yeah.
turquoise?
Yeah.
Okay. So it may not be as aesthetically beautiful as this, but it will be on point with what we are talking about. So, but we will definitely send it to you if you can email us at www.balanceandbubblespodcast.com. And
Yes, and we'll see you next week.
as we always say,
Come as you are, reset often. Have a great week.
Bye bye.